Oh, wow, so windy. What's up, guys? Welcome to a hot, windy episode. It feels kind of like a convection oven. So, camera lady says it's not that bad. It's like almost sunset and it's still 100 degrees. I guess that's better than 112, but oh, the light's getting good. All right, so I do have a hot take for you guys on a hot episode. I think wide angles are the worst lenses to use for landscape photography. I'm gonna tell you why, and I'm gonna show you. But I also love wide angles, and I'm gonna also show you why they're kind of awesome. Just the problem is that wide angles, they take more effort and they take more knowledge, I think, than longer focal lengths. And what I mean by that is, like, I get asked a lot of questions, like people that are just starting out and they're like, what, I want to get in a landscape and what lens should I get? And they're always saying like, well, I'm going to get this 10 to 18 mil or this, you know, these super wide 14s or something. And as humans, like, we have this idea that like we have to see everything and our peripheral is really good, you know, like 50 mil is kind of our jam for our eyes, but we can see, you know, with our peripherals, we can see a lot more than that. And I don't know why we tend to, as humans, like gravitate towards wider lenses, but we do. And sorry about that. And when I do workshops and I answer Q&As and all of this stuff, I get that a lot, actually. I get people just wanting to go straight to wide angles. The problem is, let's, before we get to the problem, let's go set up because these light rays are getting awesome. All right, so found this cute little guy right here. I want to make sure my mic, hang on there, little mic. Okay, let me see. Yeah, wrong tripod. Wrong tripod, Kronk. 10 points if you get that reference. That amended reference, should we call it that, Brittany? There was definitely no tripods in that movie. Okay, now we're in business. All right, I'm gonna get a time lapse going here. I don't even know what, I'm on the R6. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, but that's all right. I did have a point to make, but I have to get this time lapse set up first. That's the camera I was looking for. All right, I'm going to switch to a long lens. If you're not new to the channel, then you will know how much I love long lenses. If you're new to the channel, then welcome. I appreciate you being here, and I love long lenses. The reason why I hate wide angles, or that I say that they're the worst. Oh, is my mic still on? Yeah, it is. The reason why I say that they're the worst is because if you go into a wide angle and you don't really know too much about the principles of photography. Oh, if they get that one, that's good. Camera lady just said, "What was my hair out?" Because I was spaced out staring at something. No, there was a tarantula hawk behind camera lady.
I didn't need to know that.
Anyways, so back to the wide angle. Like when I'm going on workshops and stuff like that, and I'm helping people and I'm tutoring people and I'm teaching photography, especially with beginners, wide angles are really difficult because there's a lot going on with the distortion and all of that things. Learning how to use a wide angle, it takes time and it takes like thought, like a lot of thinking. And what we as humans tend to do is roll up to this big, beautiful scene like this, and we grab our lenses and we stand here and we click and we take the shot, and there's like half and half. I don't know why, just psychologically, that's kind of like what we all gravitate to do, but that's not what we gravitate to enjoy as an image, and there's a big difference. So with a wide angle, when you do that, the wider the angle, the more you're including in your scene, which if you don't know what to do with all of that stuff in your scene, more often than not, it'll come out looking really bland, especially if you do the half and half, dichotomy there of, if you put that horizon right on the half, if you've got a lot of stuff that's cluttered, if you've got big sky and negative space, if you got, all of this stuff is like artistic principles, and if you don't do it right, if you don't think about it, then it just, more often than not, it doesn't come out as a pleasing image. If you just roll up to a scene and you just throw your wide angle out there and grab the shot, then more often than not, you're gonna come away disappointed. And that is why I think wide angles are the worst, because they take a lot of thought. And if you're not thinking and you just go out and you grab the shot and you're not thinking about it, you come back, a lot of times you're gonna be disappointed. And I've seen that a lot with other people and with myself as I learned and grew and all of that. So this is just coming from a lot of experience and a lot of staring at images. And I've been an artist my whole life, so I've learned the principles of art, from drawing to painting to all, light, composition, all of that stuff. Very important. I'm gonna try to pick off a few long lens shots while this is going on a time lapse, because that's beautiful. And we're gonna set up, we're gonna get some astro stuff tonight. Hopefully this clouds will clear up. We're gonna go find some camp. We're gonna be camping over there in those rocks. So I'm pretty excited about that because it's one of my favorite places. But I'm gonna stop rambling now and get out of this acacia bush that I'm standing in, that it's stabbing me. I was wondering when my leg hurt. Yeah, these things. Look at that, look at that spiky. Yeah. Everything in the desert tries to kill you. All right, I probably should have put my, whoa, bird. Wow. Right after I put the wide angle on, right above us. Also, I probably should have put my boots on because it's a little spiky out here. All right, so while that's time lapsing, I was thinking we'd go down on the rocks and start talking about compositions and stuff, but I found some cool stuff. So let me show you guys some stuff I'm talking about. Like, let's just say, all right, let me switch here. Okay, so this is what we're looking at, right? We got these cool cacti, we got the yucca here, we got a great sunset, we got a lot of stuff going on. There's my tripods over there. We got a lot of, well, there's camera lady. We got these peaks here. But this is the thing, like when we're looking, people rolling up, you see this beautiful scene, what do? Like, oh, I don't want anything. It's just like, you don't immediately go to a foreground. So you come over here and, like, let's say we get out of the foreground, okay? And then you bring it up to your eye level and then bam. You think, oh, well, that's cool. You got the clouds and you've got the city of rocks down there and all that stuff. But I mean, just the problem is, like, look at that. You've lost everything. The mountains are so small. The scene is split with half here, and then this is all yellow and it all blends together. And then the clouds are so far away that you can't see the sun, you can't see the light rays coming out of there. So if you were gonna do that, throw your telephoto on and get up in its business. But if you want to shoot wide, let's take a look. Let's come back here a little bit and let's mix up the angles a little bit. So, like, what happens if I come in here and do this and focus on this yucca, and I have the top part of the yucca just coming right out of the screen? Like, it's crazy. So crazy it just might work. There's another movie reference. I love movies, if you guys can't tell. But okay, so now what happens if we turn it? So this all of a sudden becomes a lot more interesting. Now we're using the distortion to our advantage, and we're going to stretch this, we're going to stretch the sky. We're not going to put it half right there. You see that? We're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is come down. Look at that. Now we're stretching those mountains right there a little bit, and we're stretching this down here in the foreground. Something like that is looking way better. Now, I'm not saying that's an amazing image and I'm going to win Landscape of the Year award or anything like that. All I'm saying is it's worth looking at those different perspectives and having those foregrounds. But then once you start thinking about that, you have a lot of other problems, and mainly focus stacking. So when you're doing, I don't know if you noticed if it showed if I was recording, but I'm at like F10, F16. You know, I want lots of depth of field, but even with that, when you're shooting, the wider you shoot, the closer you shoot to minimal focus distance, you get it right up in its face, you're not gonna have the background sharp, even if it's F16, even if it's like super stop down, you're not gonna have that sharp, so you're gonna have to focus stack. Then typically you need a tripod for that. You don't have to, but you know, these are all the things that you think about that just increasingly. And then what happens, like if the sky's blown out, you know, and you're like, so looky here, when I'm doing this, all of that is blown out. So if I wanted a proper exposure, I'd have to exposure blend. You see, like the complications are just stacking up on this like wide angle shot here, and it's becoming more complicated and more complicated. And that's fine because it can give you a great image. It's just that if you don't know all of this stuff and you just roll up to a scene and you just, bam, you take that shot, it's going to come out a little mediocre, and maybe, you know, you're not going to be so happy with it. Or maybe you wonder why I didn't do so well on social media or something, you know. But if we're like, I'm going to edit one of these shots that I took of this, and then I'm going to grab this shot right here because the clouds look really nice. And I do have a yucca right there, which kind of looks cool, but I'm just gonna take that shot. Okay, so you tell me which one of these two you like more. The horizontal, standing still shot with nothing in the foreground, or a vertical foreground. And I've got lots of examples. I've been here, this is one of my favorite places. I know the compositions really well. I've got a lot of cool stuff like this. Where again, we're using the wide angle distortion here. We've got this pothole in the rock, and it's down by the bottom, so it's being distorted. We've got the sun star. All of that stuff's really important. So I'm gonna stop talking for a minute because the light's changing and I wanna rattle off a few more shots and give Camera Lady a break. Okay, well, welcome to camp. Let's get set up real quick before it gets too dark. All right, camp's done. Okay, so we're gonna relax. Hopefully these clouds are gonna clear. I'm gonna have a snack and some tea, prep for some astro, and then I think I'm probably not going to record anything from the astro, but I will talk about it because it's one of the things that I want to edit. But basically what I'm trying to say is we're going to have, what is that? Another bird. We're gonna have some more B-roll real quick, and then I will see you in the morning for sunrise, hopefully. Looking good. missed a step. Good morning. It's, I think about half an hour before sunrise. I think the first order of business, aside from, I most definitely have crazy hair. Camera lady's hair looks totally fine. We need tea. I think there's a slight change of plans. It's like really hot, and sunrise is gonna be over that ridge behind me. So I don't think I'm gonna wait around for that. I think I'm gonna head home, check out the Astro stuff, and then I wanna try, I did an Astro pano last night, and I wanna see how that looks, because I think it'd be pretty cool. I got it with this, you know, the tent and everything, like lifestyle Astro. I don't know, is that a thing? Lifestyle Astro? We're gonna go with that's a thing. Camera lady's giving me a very weird look right now. Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna make some tea, and then I will see you back in the studio. Also, I'm gonna look for that owl. It's out here. All right, so we're back inside now where it's not 110 degrees anymore. I feel like I was having a hard time articulating, just getting everything that was in here out like the way that I was thinking about it or envisioned. Basically, it's been a couple of days now. I've had time to try to edit these images. It's taken me longer than usual, but I think where I'm going with this is like the whole wide angle thing is that wide angles take, to get a good wide angle image, like a really good image out of a wide angle, I think it takes a very specific kind of intent and thought and motivation and knowledge too, with what to do with that kind of on the technical side of stuff, you know, the focus stacking, exposure blending and all that. And yeah, you need to do that sometimes with longer lenses and all that too, but just all of the stuff with wide angles, all of the intent and the effort that I think usually you need to put in for getting those, you know, upscaled, better quality images. If you either don't have the knowledge and the intent, or you don't have the motivation, like me, a lot of times I just am not motivated to try to struggle with a wide angle. And I think personally though, I mean, I love wide angles. I always have one in my bag. I love using them. I love it when I do have the intent and the motivation, because more often than not, when I do put the effort into it, I come away with images that I'm pretty happy with. But also for me as a photographer personally, it's a little bit of a side tangent, but you know, I struggle with the fact of how much I love wildlife, and I'm also a wildlife photographer, so that means that usually if I only have one lens to carry around, it's going to be the 1-500, because that's kind of my do all, go all, prepared for anything, you know, lens. And I do a lot of landscape with that. And if I want something wider, I usually do panos with it. Obviously a pano at 100 still isn't going to give you the perspective or the angles or anything that a true wide angle can give. But that's just my personal dilemma, and that's an issue for me. But I do usually carry like a 14-35 or something in the bag, just in case, you know, I do want to switch it up and the scene calls for a true wide angle and I really feel motivated. There's a couple things that I want to show you guys with some of the images that I got though, and let's just jump in there and I want to go over a couple things real quick. This is one of the shots I actually that I got. I actually turned it into a wallpaper because I thought it came out pretty decent. Plus I like to see how things look from a distance, like as a wallpaper. Yeah, this one for starters, I wasn't stoked on this composition, you know, and that's what I said. I kind of had a feeling, but I thought maybe it could be cool. But then as the time went on, the light got better, you know, and then I eventually gravitated towards this one. So these two yuccas were back, and it makes kind of a, V shape here, you know, and I put the sun inside that V. And so these are the kind of composition elements that I'm looking at, and I have some balance, and I have the sky, the horizon line isn't, you know, halfway, and there's enough interesting clouds there. And then I really emphasize this by giving this whole thing a vignette, and then brightening up the cactus a little bit, and then brightening up this section. So I kind of hopefully am leading your eyes to where I want them to go, and that's within this V right here, because that's where you have the sun star, that's where you have the color, that's where you have the light coming in on this guy, and then you have it bordered by these two yucca out here. So that's kind of the visual, psychological, artistic breakdown of the image that I ended up going with. But then I took a wider shot horizontal, which was this one, and I think it's a much different feel. And again, this is like the wide angle, and you can see that I cropped that. So like if we look, you can see what I cropped out. And I think that even if we would have left it like this, it would have been fine, but I kind of knew that I wanted to make it a background, and most monitors are 16:9, and I just love the way making it a little wider looked, but I do think this would have worked just fine too. And in fact, probably doing it like this will work better for something like, you know, Facebook or online or whatever, like not Instagram, obviously, because Instagram hates anything that's not 4x5 or square. But for everything else, this would have worked great, and I do like it like that. So I'll probably actually leave this as a full crop like this for a print, and put that on my print site, and I think that would do better as the 3x2 for a print as well. But here is another example that I wanted to show you that I think really benefited from a crop, and that's one thing that I think about a lot when I do wide angles, is like, you can see that you can see how much was there, and there's a lot of space in the clouds, a lot of negative space out here. Like I like this yucca, I like this guy in the midground, and this yucca over here in the far midground, but there's a lot of space. So what I did is I did a pano, a fake pano, and I did a 2-to-1 ratio. So this is 2-to-1, and really forced that pano feeling, and I think that just works so much better for this image. We still do have a bit of negative space here, but the fact that it's like, it's telling the story of this field lit up and rolling into, you know, these foothills and the plateaus and all of that stuff, and the golden hour light is what saves it. In this image, that's what saves it being a wide angle, is the golden hour light. And this is at 14 millimeters. But forcing that fake pano perspective, I think, is a really strong element for saving a wide angle image. Like even on this one, if we would have, you know, this is that boring just walk up and shoot at high level shot that I did. Like if we would have done something like that, you know, or even be crazy and do a 3-to-1, like, you know, that's bringing everything, that's giving it a forced perspective, which maybe could make it a little bit better. I still don't think that would be an amazing shot or anything. Yeah, I'm much more happy with something like, but like, look at, even if we would have done, like, look at that, you know, forcing this 3-to-1. I think that looks really cool too. And I actually would love to see that printed out as a pano, when you can see it not on a little screen and, you know, watching it on YouTube or seeing it on Instagram or whatever. I think that would even be my preferred over the 2-to-1 or the 16:9 of this one. All right, well, I kind of got lost in the editing there, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I just want to give you guys an insight into like how I think when I'm approaching focal lengths, and what I'm thinking about what can I do with a focal length, what do I know how to do, and more importantly, what am I willing to do? Am I willing to bring the tripod and focus stack and exposure blend, and really am I willing to spend the time that's needed to adjust and really pay attention to all of the elements, especially with wide angles. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, is that, you know, the wider the angle, the more stuff tends to be in there. So you really got to be leery of what stuff is in there, what you're including, what you're leaving out, and where you're putting it in the frame, in the context, in the story, the lighting. So hopefully that helps you understand like why I think that sometimes wide angles can definitely be the worst choice, and why you should always carry a telephoto with you. Well, that and because wildlife. If you see a bird, you need to shoot it in the face. All right, well, if you love wide angles and you have some awesome tips for people, leave them in the comments down below so we can all help each other out. And if you have any questions for me or comments on any of my images, you know, leave them down below. You know, I will definitely answer them or reply to them. And if you're still here through all of that, I super appreciate it. Hit that like button for me. That's the best thing you can do for the channel. Well, also you can, if you're really invested, then you can check out the channel membership and become part of the channel members and have access to a bunch of extra content and support the channel. I really appreciate everything that you guys do and the time that you give me as well, just watching my videos. So huge thanks to you for sticking around. It means the world to me. And that's it. I want to wrap it up, and I will see you out in the next one very soon.